A lot of parents talk about struggles with their kids and their kids not paying attention or their kids being impulsive, not understanding their kids' behavior. And one of the ways to approach that is by teaching our kids to be more mindful and pay more attention to their thoughts and their feelings and their body, and helping them understand why they feel a certain way, or reflecting back and looking at why they did something and what they could have done next time. And we can start that with toddlers all the way up to elementary school kids and high school kids. So anybody can do it, and it helps with behavior in the long run. It's a process, but it's well worth it. And we start seeing results fairly quickly from it with our kids.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the research on yoga and mindfulness is very, very new. So, research into the benefits of yoga and mindfulness really started after 2005, with the majority of the research coming after 2010. So, it's only been in the last 8 years that we have some solid evidence, some solid psychological evidence about the benefits of yoga and mindfulness. And 8 years is not a long time in terms of research. It seems like a long time when you say, oh, that was 8 years ago. But it's not a long time in terms of research. But the research that has been done indicates that practicing yoga and mindfulness increases or improves emotional regulation, attention to independence, empathy, metacognitive awareness, self-compassion, self-esteem, self-regulation, moral development. It increases mood and affect, reduces stress and anxiety. And it's just overall great for kids to practice.
Certainly, and it just helps a lot, because parents, we want our kids to be aware of other people. We want them to be nice. We want them to use manners. We want them to be behaved in the grocery store. We want them to tell us about their day when they get home from school. All those sorts of things all can be tied back to being more mindful, and yoga and practicing mindfulness really help with all those things. It really ties it all together.
That's true. With kids yoga and mindfulness, so a lot of the research that was done before 2005 was done with adults. So we know a lot about the benefits of yoga and mindfulness for adults. Kids, not so much. And there are many different factors that we have to take into account when we're talking about kids practicing yoga and kids practicing mindfulness. Kids and adults aren't the same. We're not the same beings, and it's not comparable. The two practices aren't comparable. They're not the same. They're not even a little bit the same. I can't even stress that enough. And because of the things that we know about adults, the practices of yoga and mindfulness for kids have a lot of myths that surround it. So the purpose of this video series is to dispel some of those myths. We want to tell you what kids yoga and kids mindfulness really is, tell you how it really impacts your kids, and just push those myths out of the way.
Yeah, people look at me really weird when I say that I do yoga with my kids, because they have this image of, a class at the gym or something that they've seen on a movie or, in a TV show. And it's nothing like that at all. It's us sometimes it's taking 5 minutes, which is a long time. My kids are 2 and 4. And sometimes it's just a minute. Sometimes it's my 2-year-old doing downward dog in a shopping cart in Walmart. So yoga with kids is nothing like what we see in TV, or, what we see when we're walking by the yoga studio. It's more fun. It's more relaxed, perhaps isn't the right word for it. But we're doing songs, we're a little noisy, that sort of thing. And we just kind of go with the flow, and we're not so concerned about, counting how long we're holding a pose or something like that. As they get older or better, we can do that. But certainly when they're really young, I don't even emphasize that at all. It's just more about moving our bodies and starting to pay attention to how we're breathing and what our thoughts are.
Right. And on that note, the first myth that we can dispel is that kids yoga is just like yoga for adults, because it's not true. It's not even close to the same thing. And that's why you don't see kids in an adult yoga class, because they're not the same. So kids yoga needs to be more free flowing because kids are still growing. Their bodies are biologically different than an adult. So this means that they can't hold poses for long periods of time, or that they can't practice with as many instructions as adults do. We can't say things like engage your core, press through the palms, like, lift your sternum. Kids they have no idea what those words even mean. And the more things that you say to a child when they're practicing yoga, the more complicated it becomes and the more confused they get. And then it's just not fun anymore. And as long as the child is safe in the pose, they can practice as freely as they like. So, their arms are like all like this. This is yoga. This is yoga for kids. And it's not, I'm not gonna lie, I did that in an adult yoga class like last weekend, and it is so much fun. And like we look at other adults doing that and we're like, oh, that's a little bit weird. But it's amazing. You should really try it. But kids yoga is a lot of songs and games and other activities. It's a really fun learning environment. It teaches concepts like self and emotional regulation and conflict resolution, building positive relationships. And it's just like this multi-sensory learning environment where you're listening to a song. So you've got the auditory, maybe you're singing the words if there are words, you're doing the physical postures, and it's just a whole bunch of things going on at one time in a really fun way.
Yeah, my kids certainly have a lot of fun with it. I mean, they make up their own yoga poses, which is fine too, because it shows that they're thinking about it and they're paying attention to their bodies and all that kind of good stuff. I've also noticed that when we do yoga and a friend's kids are over, kids like to do it. If I start doing yoga because the kids are getting wild and we need a different activity, they often just join in. I don't have to invite them. I don't have to say, hey, let's slow down and do some yoga. I just start doing something and they start copying me. So it's great for that too. And it's nice that it's so easy. And like you said, as long as they're not harming themselves, then it's fine. It's yoga for them.